Greetings! Welcome to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back into the world of Golarion, the setting for the Pathfinder role-playing game system? Because today, we're heading deep into a dangerous subcontinent within Tian Xia, the Valashmai Jungle. You're ready to hit this rainforest and face its very deadly creatures, demigods, and eldrich entities, on ancient magics, kaiju. So much stuff here is incredibly dangerous and incredibly deadly, and we're going to be facing all. If you're ready, I will open up the gateway to Golarion. Take us there with my abilities and powers. I am your guide, and Dracovin. Please do remember to give me a little bit of a support and tip here with like subscribing and developing the YouTube side of things. And hey, have you had any adventures in the Valashmai Jungle? Whether this is someplace like the country that's part of it, I talked about in my previous episode, Valashmai, or outside of it. Regardless, it's time to dive in. My hands outstretched. Grab it. The portal's open. Let's get going. We've arrived! Valashmai Jungle. Alright. Well, I have some number of sources and places I've looked for information, but I can also suggest some places that you can look deeper into this beyond. Of course, the Tian Xia World Guide is a great place, but Mimic Realms and the Dragon Empire's Gazetteer all provide information at an older basis, basically more first edition. But I would recommend all three of these books as a great way to have a paint a picture. I focused more on the World Guide here at the end, but truly speaking, it paints a picture of Valashmai. What can we say about this place? This massive jungle. It is a subcontinent of Tian Xia. That's easy to say at first. It is a massive rainforest with jagged volcanoes, endless swamps, and places of danger and mystery. All these things are great descriptors for it. But monsters, hermit dragons, exiled fiends, alien spores, and of course, kaiju. That is what this land is. More than anything, those words there. Those are the more supernatural, massive dangers. But there's also many mundane ones here. Aggressive dinosaurs, mortal-eating plants, predatory wasps, minor states, villages, and towns that all call this jungle home, which could be dangers in and of themselves, or just another thing that you encounter on your travels within the jungle. It's hard to say. Are those people going to be a threat to you, a danger to you? Or will they be friends? Or neither? Same with those dinosaurs. They probably don't want you coming in their territory. Now, if we look at the history of the jungle, it is an ancient one. Ancient than many areas of Golarion in a way, because the first legacy of this place was the Jade Hegemon. And its fiery Moonshare, Manshare. I'm butchering this a little bit, so apologize. It's me not being able to pronounce things. Population. So, Moonshare are basically, if you want to know who they were called in D&D and First Edition Azers. Basically, they are sturdy, dwarf-like outsiders from the plane of fire. So Moonshire were the first populace of the jungle. They were elementals. They made a bastion here, where they were safe from a myriad of oppressors. Water, the trees, the earth itself were turned into the elementals' purpose. They erected volcano settlements that would drown attackers in lava, emerald mines, inoperable guardians that have eroded now into horrors, or swelled into kaiju. Their time ended with the Age of Serpents in the ancient past. But for a time, they ruled this jungle in this region. The next people to conquer the region were the Valashmai, which the jungle gets its name. Valashmai Jungle comes from the name Valashmai. They were giant reptilian people, 3 times the size of humans, who arrived from space. They were space invaders. They actually were. Came in spaceships. They built an empire across the jungle. They wrestled the ecology into submission, built grand halls, experimental chambers. But like many empires, they were brutal. They had numerous slaves. They basically conquered the realm through brutality, and their empire was built on the backs of those they conquered by force. But again, like many empires, they fell too. Rebellion, discontent. By Earthfall, reformers, freed slaves, and of course monstrosities they had unleashed with their myriad of experiments turned against them. Their blades to their throats. Valashmai became no more. Their ruins, titanic, sprawl across the jungle with ancient machinery, bioengineered parts, and the major species that now live in the jungle: the catfolk, the tripkeys, the lizard folk, who all call this jungle home, are descended from those that have been conquered and enslaved by Valashmai. Modern tames, when you look at the jungle, untamed, wild frontier, far into civilization, especially since the Empire. Some may even imagine people as foreign as they are, a land of outsiders. It's a primal subcontinent, rival to a druid's ambition. But it alludes to something that's not right about Valashmai Jungle. It's not natural. It's far from it. Kaiju are a massive symptom of this. More kaiju call this jungle home than anywhere else in Golarion. Some of these creatures came from ancient empires, but many more have been drawn to the region since Earthfall, for who knows what reason. They regenerate this land. They keep it vibrant. They replenish the population of dinosaurs, monsters, and bizarre flora through their migration. The energies and powers they unleash causes these things to grow more and more. And it's their violent stewardship that this place remains a area that no mortal can truly claim rulership over. The things that rule the jungle, ancient and terrible, and are a violation of nature's laws. And the people that survive here are a test to mortal ingenuity. Valashmai, I've talked about in previous episodes, have managed to survive and conquer like a quarter to a third of the jungle in massive battles, and they maintain that barely. Think about that. They maintain that barely. Little bastions, islands across the jungle in a kind of network that they manage to sort of hold on to using ancient technologies and magics from the Valashmai. There's a reason they haven't spread any farther. They can't. They'd love to. But the jungle as a whole may never be truly, fully conquered again. Valashmai, even all its things, has very little territory. The jungle is that one. Here's the entire jungle. This entire place here is that jungle. This is the picture, the entire map for Mythic, blah 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 blah, Mythic Realms book I'm talking about. So, yeah. You can see how big it is there. And that little side area, like right next to me, over in the east, Valashmai. Maybe even a fifth of the area, honestly. Now I'm like looking at it better. Like a fifth of the entire region they've managed to take control of, barely. So there are some major areas in here that we can talk. The Chenlun Mountains, rising from the Imbaral Ocean and stretching to the center of the jungle. These mountains dominate the skyline. Some peaks have ancient elemental palaces and giant fortresses, abandoned in those ancient ages. That some of them repurposes by individuals. Others are just volcanic craters, pushed into ignition by long ancient magics that still ooze lava into lowlands. The Jade Hegemony had this area as the center of their power, the center of their civilization in those ancient days. They governed the lower lands from these great cities. Now, maybe dozens of small petty kingdoms, some ruled by powerful Onis that call the mountains their homes, others ruled by various bandit lords that have taken over. But still, these are ancient ruins that have become fortresses, walled townships. They've got their malfunctioning elemental artifacts that are now weapons of war. Hidden eldrich lore that slumbers in this area. Elementers sequestered away as trump cards for the bandit kings and Oni. So these giants and Oni raid the lowlands, take food, wealth, and captives. Goroyasa. Now that's an island down there over in the west. Southwestern coast. Ha! It's interesting, and we should talk about it. Why? Because no one goes there, no one lives there. A fungal blight covers the entire surface of the island, blanketing it with spores that twist mind and body to those they infect. When lightning strikes the island, it goes up in a great firestorm that emblazons the spores into a fire that can be seen from the mainland. And then you can see there are ruins of some kind of ancient giant civilization there. Is the Valashmai? Is it actual giants whose giants live in this area? No one knows. The only inhabitants there are spore hosts of Goroyasa. Basically, they're infected creatures who sacrifice adventurers and travelers that they get too close to their demon lord, Synth Vusug. So, yeah. Pleasant people to kind of meet with. You know, you're just another sacrifice for them. Thanks for that. So yeah. Not a pleasant place to visit at all. Or so you would think. Thing is, with its mysterious history, sages have tried to look into it. They've flown over the island, seen that the fungus is oriented around a crater. Maybe its experiment go wrong. Maybe a meteor fell down here and brought ancient spores to this kingdom. Maybe a grand magic of the people of the island went out of power. Could it be the Valashmai Empire? Could it be the Jade Hegemony? No one knows for sure. But rather at least, the fungus is here. Some even say that maybe this is a twin to the world rune that was sealed with these spores to prevent demonic incursions. The only person that could maybe answer, the only being, is of course Demon Lord Synth Vusug. But no one can get answers out of him. And even the greatest servants of Synth Vusug know nothing about this island. That Demon Lord remains quiet about it, for who knows what reason. Those people that are there infected sacrifice things to him. But that's, again, why people go there. There's ancient ruins of great power there. The fungus has preserved victims that have gone there, the ancient city that has gone there. So there's massive arcane treasures and lost lore hidden deep within that place. Those ancient ruins that are there. Most people that end up there are just new hosts and spores. Or sacrifices. The Demon Lord. Not a pleasant place. We'll talk about this guy a little bit, but he's one of the bandit lords of the mountains. I want to have the map first. Different order of operations here. But let's keep going and talk about Kashang. So, what is Kashang? A major ruin in this area, and an important one to talk about. It's the eastern foot of the Riot Mountains. Against the glowing peaks is a ruined Valashmai city. This was an ancient temple city, looming large on the city walls. You can see those ancient temples, windows aglow with power of ancient wards. This was where the Saurian Valashai and a lot of their subjects made pilgrimage and prayers to their various assorted interstellar gods. This city became insignificant before the gods when they built an empire on subjugation and supremacy, equal under their dictates. Prayer and praises heard on midnight winds can actually show up, and you can actually hear them sometimes. Valashai abolitionists exalted as an image of what the empire could be. Basically, this place was one of the few relatively nice places in the empire. You know, a place where the subjects and the subjugator could pray side by side and be equal in the eyes of their gods. The empire fell. Kashang didn't get hit by that chaos at first. None really wanted to defile a holy city. Usually a bad idea to defile a holy city, that's got a lot of gods and stuff there. But Empire's fallen. Resources are dwindling. Basically, they're summoning protectors to the city in the many temples, feeding the priests, protecting pilgrims that have dared the jungle now that things are falling apart to get here. The last farms collapsed. The city had no longer any food, and even the devout abandoned. But the protections have remained. So it's silent. Predator monsters, bandits, adventurers, give that place a wide berth. For good reason. Guardians of this place still stand. Sure, there's treasure troves of knowledge, lost rites and forgotten faiths, interstellar gods, untapped eldrich power, favor of the interstellar gods. Things lost to time. But you have to get past the Guardians. That will just, you. There are those in Valashmai, Raj, who wish to access these secrets, though, because it won't lie untouched. And there are plenty of people with a lot of money that are easy going to throw it at powerful adventurers that are willing to go in there. Throw some money on some powerful dudes that are willing to go in there. Tribes and towns want basically long-forgotten cultural ties. Relic traders seek unimaginable wealth. And the Raj wants basically legitimacy for continuing to rule. And foreign powers even relish in gaining this. So there's always this massive interest in the ancient city. Swamp of the Dark Brood. In the southern reaches of the jungle, the trees give way to mud, pools of acid, and twisted scrub. This is where the Uruxi, the lizard folk, a lot of their factions populate. The black-tongued biters, the bloodstingers, the red brood, and the thickskins, among many others. These different tribal groups and factions of lizard folk range from bandits, mercenaries, to just simple townsfolks. And they battle constantly over the resources of the swamp. Alliances are fluid, temporary. Battles are fierce. Political rivals, the politics rival the danger of any urban port. There's an exception. That's the yearly route. No Ruxia dare fight each other. The swamp comes out. The travelers and guards disappear. Their screams echoing across the swamps. Towns leave livestock outside the gates. Mercenaries encamp in makeshift forts. All hoping what's in the night doesn't come for them. For you see, in the depths of the swamp, where none will dare, the Zisius of the Dark Brood exist. These were subjects of the Valashmai Empire in long ancient age, parasitic beings that won their freedom in the insurgent wars that raged for decades, leaving ruined fortresses across the swamp and burying corpses and treasures throughout their expanse. Those that survived the Zixes tell the tale of Bodjeva, the immortal broodmother, and her sorceress sisters, who lead generation after generation against the Valashmai until they were freed, who will one day lead them to rise against the rest of Golarion. So increasingly, the fruited folk of the swamp of the Dark Brood are coming together against this threat. It's a blood price for these yearly terrors. They imagined it was a small nest of monsters before. Now it's clearly some great hive, with thousands of the Zekuni, hungry for flesh, unified in purpose. And the Uruxi know they have to fight back, or else we devour alive. Let's talk about one of the only other cities outside the Valashmai that exist within the Valashmai Jungle. Valashmai has a few cities, but outside of their protection, what do you have? Nigh but Kutaban. This is on the northern border, along great rivers that mark the Nagajor-Valashmai border. It is the free city of Kutaban. The river hums with riverboats, cargo that travels the waters for all hours of the day. Their city is low, no building more than 2 stories, sprawling along the southern riverbank, between nested markets, houses, and estates. The ribcage of an ancient, long-dead kaiju surrounds the entire city. This cadaver wards other kaiju away from you. Hey, built inside the dead corpse of a kaiju is a city. For most travelers, arriving at Kutaban is where you enter into the Valashmai Jungle. Riverport trades extensively with Nagajor and Zahot. It's an excellent base camp for adventurers that want to dive into the jungle. It's easy to find lodges, merchants that have supplies, guides that have advice or offer their services. And so also you can find successful adventurers that share their tale of their travelers, just as new one hopes for treasure and glory. But many of the new adventurers never return. Even experienced crews occasionally disappear, never to be seen in the jungle. Rescue parties? Very rare. If you disappear in the jungle, you're assumed dead. Kubaton is a gateway for outsiders, but is also a gateway for locals of the jungle. If you're a Valashmaian adventurer that wants to get to the outside world, meet strange people, places, this is where you go, joining a trade caravan heading north. It's your opportunity for the customs to unite people that would normally war and compete deeper in the jungle. So it's a gateway for star-crossed lovers, exiles, as much as adventurers. If you are a person of the jungle and you have a, again, that star-crossed lovers, exiles, this is basically a place that could be a combination of safety, acceptance, steady work. You're still at home in the jungle, but you're a little bit separate. Trade is the critical thing here. Economy, politics, all of it. Spices and treasure and magic islands from the peninsula loaded onto northbound trade caravans. Industrial goods, silk, luxuries are heading into the jungle. Wealth empowers these merchants to be lords of this place. They leverage their riches for political power, grand estates, foreign mercenaries, and local armies to secure the power. Contracts, maps to unexplored ruins, and financial acumen make and break these great lords. But atop all of them, we'll talk about a little later, is Sunja Maha, the crocodilian sovereign of Kutaban, who keeps the feuding of the lesser lords in check. Now, overall, these lords, as much as they're independent and competing with each other and their fellow merchants, they will unite against an outside threat. This is usually foreign power, or occasionally another town along the border that wants to supplant them as a trade city. But if something happens, they'll get back together and unite. But once the problem is gone, back into the squabbling merchant wars. Once everything is said and done. Let's talk about some important figures. We'll talk about Shujana Maha here in a second. But there are other major important figures. And we should start with the two big ones that are related to two of the places we talked about. Verdant Akram and Boja. Verdant Akram is a kaiju. It's a guardian of Kashang, a 200-meter tangle of living vines and lotus moons. Guided by a sentry bulbs dot along its bulk. It patrols the jungle and the temple, suppresses magic and spellcasters, items, and land as it passes, secretes deadly toxin that's harmless to plants, deadly to mortals and animals, which it can spray against enemies. Legend tells that Akram was first animated when the temple was first sacked in ancient Greece. Basically, the gods of the temple here in this ancient city found it sacrilegious and animated the jungle itself to punch the perpetrators and protect the sanctuary. And since then, Akram patrols Kashang, the greatest of all the guardians of this ancient city and its temple within. Bojeva was once forgotten by her people after the defeat of Valashmai. They won their freedom in the insurgency, and she was the first leader forging into Fralatril coalition of escaped slaves into the Dark Blue. Cohesive, thriving adventure. At her peak, she disappeared to sleep for ages. It was 2 centuries ago she returned to Zuchi, returned from the swamp's depths, She could control of the brood, devoured all who would challenge her, claimed that she was Bojava returned. Again, that's one of those things that's returning and saying you're Bojava. It's kind of like a weird thing. Is she really? Or is she just taking the name of it? It's hard to say. She is a Zuchi queen, regardless. But she's built her power and the brood strength and hopes to unleash them upon Golarion. But the truth is that none but Bojava herself knows, for the new Zuchi is more powerful than any other brood, covered in ancient scars and secretive beyond regions. She's expanded the brood, breaking agreements that they actually had with the lizard folk. She lays more broods than any of her predecessors, takes captives, which is unusual. She's unstable and periodically demands strange and her demands grow strange and capricious. And those that failed her are devoured. She also mitigates a mile-long mud-carved hive at the center of the territory and slumbers there for months and years at end in Zushi territory. Any that dares wake her, dead. And she only awakens otherwise if there's, part of her normal schedule, if she's interrupted, or sometimes if there's an attack by, the lizard folk population, she'll wake up, have her fill of sapient flesh, and then go back to bed. So now she spends more time asleep than awake, and the Zuchi, as much as she's bolstered them up, wonder perhaps the Dark Brood was better off without her. Sure, 200 years ago, she gave them a big old boost, and she's helped them elevate them to a new level, but it's not working out anymore as much as we would love. The Bandit Kings of Chenlun Mountain. Otar Sultan, the fire giant we showed earlier. That fire giant is a monarch, a ruler, and he is of age. His beard beginning to dim a little bit, his skin baked in lava and sun, and he stands himself noble. Standing on a caldera, Oni pillagers would consider themselves what they want. He doesn't have a bandit camp, he has a kingdom, a modest and fair one, offering protection to its citizens for their service instead of extracting wealth and labor in brutal raids. He has withstood many Oni challenges, who would take his throne. For his giants, the Mushar under him, and other humanoids of his land, would rise up to defend him. Now this wasn't always the way. Once Otar was Otar 12-Finger, a terrible bandit, like any others. And though his eventual learning and pretension set him apart. He subjugated the Mushar and mortals within his domain, raided with abandon, until a catfolk priestess arrived at his castle. She was unarmed and unguarded, and spoke to peace with him, preached her faith. Impressed with her bravery, rather than being truly interested, he accepted. Go ahead and preach. And they had several weeks of heated discussion. And at the end of it, Otar changed. He basically accepted and changed his life. The priestess was successful. She left, weighed down with treasures he gave her. Otar 12-Finger became Otar Sultan. He freed every slave in his territory, and bid all that wouldn't obey his new laws to leave. He carved out this region and made it into a kingdom. Finally, the last important figure to talk about here is Shuja Mai. This Uruxi that is especially crocodilian in appearance. The thick tail, odd green scales, ridged back, oar-like tail, very crocodilian. Sujana took power. And they did so, they had ancient treasures worth many times than the crown they wear, melted down and reforged. As you can see from his appearance here, he wears black silk baju koko over a matching sarong with no patterns. And it's just the massive gold headpiece that he wears. Sujana is truly the sovereign of Kutaban, the most powerful mortal within 100 miles of the border with Nagaji. Sujana began as a humble guide for foreign treasure hunters, leveraged their knowledge and became a treasure hunter themselves, then a merchant lord. 20 years ago, Sujana took power from the previous merchant lord after a political scandal that involved brontosaurus stampeding through the inner markets. Since then, Sujana has proved one of Kutaban's most able leaders. cracked down on many of the more serious threats that built up against the city, organized culls of the many dinosaur-populated nations, replenished the city's kaiju callers. Maybe the kaiju stick away because of the ribs, but hey, the kaiju callers can keep them off trade routes. Also hiring adventurers to suppress growing hive of maddening elementals along important trade routes. So keeping trade routes open, keeping kaiju callers on hand to help out. Done everything to create protection and organize the city. So Janna's loyalties, well, they're to Valashmai Jungle, to the people of it. If you have disreputable guides or unscrupulous merchants who shortchange adventurers or outsiders that could possibly lead them to death, that's nothing. This would have been something that would have had consequences under more foreign-faced rulers. But no. Chujana is about the people of Valashmai. Them first, above everything. They're the ones that need protection. The people of this place. Trade is good and all. But they're not family. There's the Valashmai Jungle. A massive region that is mostly wild. As you can see, there are plenty of interesting dangers and small pockets of civilization that exist out here. Small kingdoms built out of mountains, whether they're bandit overlords, great monarchs like Otar, or even the Oni's pillagers that conquer these places. Tribes and villages spread throughout the land who've learned how to coexist with dinosaurs, monsters, plants, kaiju. Various other species, from Uruxi, other lizard folk, cat folk, Morns, and Trippi, or others that have found their ways to survive here in Valashmai. And yes, you have places in Valashmai, the beginnings of a true empire amongst the jungle. But the jungle is so large, and there are so much dangers here. Perhaps they would never have. But people find ways to survive, to exist within the jungle, and to build themselves up through these ancient empires and magics and technologies that were left behind by these ancient empires. Valashmai is a fascinating place, filled with danger, also great wealth and reward to those that are brave enough and perhaps insane enough to face those dangers. That's Valashmai. And that'll be it for today. I hope you enjoyed joining me today. I hope you enjoyed learning all about Valashmai. It's definitely a place that is filled with adventure. Plenty of stuff to explore there. So I hope you are inspired. Maybe go check it out in your own adventures. Hold on a moment. Please remember to check out all the rest of my stuff, whether that's me live over on Twitch or joining me when all my tabletop stuff is uploaded over on YouTube. Everything I record or stream that's tabletop related over on Twitch ends up over on the YouTube side of things. I do other things over on Twitch, do some gaming and stuff too, but that doesn't go up there. I might put a bot channel at some point in time. Big things to shout out, other than informative videos like this, are live plays of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which I'm currently doing, called Adamswell. It stays at 8. Up on YouTube eventually. Make sure to check it out live. It'd be great. And discussing tabletop Saturdays at 6. My talk show podcasting thing. I'll make it a real podcast eventually. Which also you can learn news of the week, or discussion, deep topics of discussion in tabletop here. Very interesting. I recommend checking both of these. Check out my social medias, link below. Please remember to do the various support things here, like subscribing to the bell like I said at the beginning. And of course, my question now is going to evolve a little bit. What do you think? What is the big thing that would pull you to checking out Valashmai? Would it be, you think, like checking out like kaiju, ancient empires, you know, some of the places within the mountains linked to the various empires? What would be the coolest thing to explore that you think here in one of your adventures? Let me know in the comments below. I'm interested in what you think about this. Anyway, I'm going to get going. Maybe hang out Twitch tracks more, do some more things. But until the next time, this is Golarion, for another tabletop-related world, an RPG. I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.